morning. It's Sunday morning, day 2 of our little adventure. It's about 9:30 in the morning, and we've made our way out of Little Narragansett Bay. We're in the far east end of Fisher's Island Sound, just off Stonington. And the wind is coming out of the north this morning, more or less. I'm not sure exactly where it is at the moment. So we're going to stick with the original plan and head south, logically enough, which is would be Montauk. So we haven't quite cleared the outer breakwater at Stonington. When we do and can set ourselves up pretty much on our course we're going to take all day to Montauk, we'll see about setting up the whisker pole. Oh, so I should bring up, in fact, I did make repairs to the damage I caused on the last trip, but we'll have to look at those more closely when we're in port. So that's it for now. It's about 10:30 and we've made it through Lord's Passage, which is one of several passages in the area between the east end of Fisher's Island and Napatree Point. And we were fighting quite a bit of current going through there, so our progress has not been all that rapid, despite the fact we've got fairly decent wind. And we're still fighting quite a bit of current, a knot or so. But that should taper off as we get out of this funnel area and out into Block Island Sound proper. So we'll have to see what our ETA shapes up to be once we get out of the effects of the current, and to see whether we're going to be able to make this under sail. It's you get later in the year as we are, and you got a lot less sunlight. So sunset's about 6:30, sunrise is about 6:40. So we have to keep that in mind as we plan out the day. It's very complicated. The weather forecast for today called for 10 to 15 mile an hour winds out of the north this morning and 5 to 10 out of the west this afternoon. And the only thing that's true about that is the wind directions. It was northish, but nowhere near 10 to 15. And it did go to westish, well, I don't think it was even 5. So maybe it'll pick up at some point this afternoon, but I was just flailing around. So I started the motor, and we're doing 3 to 4 knots at the moment. We'll see how things pan out. But it is lunchtime, so time for a sandwich. And today we've got a roast beef sandwich that I did remember to make before picking up the anchor this morning. Although in these conditions it wouldn't have been hard to make a sandwich underway, I guess. But it's always easier when you're at anchor. Plus I can do the one utensil that gets dirty when I make a sandwich. Something to spread mayonnaise with. Anyway, well, we'll eat and on we go. It's about 20 after 1, and as I hoped, the wind did pick up. It's probably the 5 to 10 that was in the forecast, and somewhere in the westerly direction. So I put up the sails. And we're doing about the same as we've been doing, puttering along on the engine, somewhere between 3 and 4 knots. And it's another hour and a half to 2 hours to get to Montauk Harbor. So we are going to get a nice afternoon of pleasant sailing. Well, it's about 10 minutes of 4 now, and we are anchored in Montauk Harbor. When I picked Montauk Harbor for the destination today, I did that despite the fact that it's a weekend, because I know it's kind of crazy at the weekend, and sure enough, it was coming in. Lots of other boats wanted to come in at the same time after their day of fishing, I suppose, and they don't like to get behind a slow pokey sailboat, even though, you know, I actually sped up when I got to the entrance channel. So I was doing a little over 4 knots. The speed limit for the harbor is 5 knots, but you know, they don't want to be behind you. So and to make matters worse, they're dredging the channel way out near the entrance. So it was narrower than it normally is. Anyway, so one of the first things I'm going to do here, now that the anchor is down, is put up the pop-top enclosure. But before I do that, I need to show you, as I promised, the fix I made for the damage that the whisker pole caused on the last trip. Because once I get the pop top up, you won't be able to see it. So we'll do that now. So hopefully the wind won't be too bad here. So as you may recall, on the last trip, I had the whisker pole attached to this car, and enough force was put on it that it ripped the track out away from the mast for somewhere between 2 and 3 feet. And I did 2 things to fix that. One is I cut off the bent section of track, which still leaves me enough track that I can move the whole whisker pole, slide it up the mast far enough to be out of the way of the pop-top enclosure, but just barely. The second thing I did was I attached a new eye that is bolted with 6 bolts to the mast, and hopefully that's somewhat stronger. Not that I intend to really push it and find out how strong it is. So now the operational change is that when it's in storage mode, the whisker pole, the bottom of the whisker pole connects here, and now when I deploy it, I just need to transfer it from this ring to that ring, so the strain is not on the track anymore, and the track is only used for storing the pole. So that was the change there. Well, now it's about 20 after 4, and I've managed to, I think, take care of all of the immediate chores. Put up the pop-top enclosure, put up the riding sail, tie off the tiller, put away the tiller pilot, you know, lots of little stuff like that. And so now I think I've earned my afternoon beer. So here in the moment you've all been waiting for is today's look at the chart. So up here is Napatri Beach and Little Narragansett Bay, and we made our way out and around the Stonington Breakwater, the outer one here, and through Lord's Passage, which is one of the several passages here between the east end of Fisher's Island and Napatree Point. And then basically spent the whole day coming down this long line, which is in itself about 12 miles down to the entrance buoy for Lake Montauk, and then made our way down, and we're way down here in the southern tip. So here's what the southern end of Lake Montauk looks like. Looking west at the moment. Fortunately, the sun is mostly behind a cloud, and we can swing around to the north. You can see it's a pretty big body of water. Room for lots of boats. Not a lot of protection from wind. And so probably with enough wind you could generate a pretty decent swell in here, but it's not too bad at the moment. So got some boats here moored all the way down here. Not sure who or what those belong to. And back towards the west, we're trying to get a little shelter from the vegetation over here. We're not getting much, but we don't really need much. So for dinner, we're going to have a meal that had been frozen, and seems pretty well thought out now. This is baked ziti with sausage, and we put 12 ounces of water in the pan and lit a fire under it, and we'll bring that to a boil. Okay, well, that has started to boil. So what I think we're going to do is take it off the stove, put it in the beach towel, cover it up, and since only about half the meal is actually covered with water, we'll be rolling it back and forth to make sure that it all gets heat evenly distributed through it. And we'll probably give that about 20 minutes. Alright, here's our pasta and sausage, and it is warm, although the 12 ounces of water just barely managed to get that warm, so well, certainly wouldn't want to try it with any less. And of course we have a glass of wine. We were going to have a salad. When I saw how big this meal was, I decided that I didn't want a salad too, so well, we'll have a salad some other time.